Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradha Hari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradha Hari Yashodanandana Rajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanatha Hari Yamuna Tira Vanatha Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradha Hari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradha Hari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanatha Hari Yamuna Tira Vanatha Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Syām Sundara Radha Syām Sundara Radhe. Jaya Radha Syām Radha Syām Radha Syām Jaya Radha Syām. Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Nitai Gaura Haribol, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jayam Vishwapad Paramamsa Parivara Jagataya Ashtota Sattu Shishmachila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Jayam Vishupad Paramahamsa Parivirajagacchaya Shokta Satta Śrīmad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Sirup Si Sanatan Bhattar Raghunath Si Jeev Gopal Bhattar Rasa Raghunath Sar Goswami Prabhu ki. Prem se ko si Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivajari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki. Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopa Gopi Govardhana Hill Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki. Shri Mathura Dham ki. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Dham ki. Shri Jagannathpuri Dham ki. Tulsi Maharani Bhakti Devi ki. Ganga Yamuna Devi ki. Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki. Shri Shri Gaunitai ki. Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki. Shri Shri Radha Shyama Sundar ki. Go Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Reading from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, 3rd chapter, text number 24. Utsīdeyuḥ lokā na kuryāṁ karma aham saṅkarasya kartā syām upahanyām imāḥ prajāḥ utsīdeyuḥ lokā na kuryāṁ karma aham saṅkarasya kartā syām upahanyām imāḥ prajāḥ utsīdeyuḥ lokā na kuryāṁ karma aham saṅkarasya kartā syām upahanyām imāḥ prajāḥ utsīdeyuḥ lokā na kuryāṁ karma aham saṅkarasya kartā syām upahanyām imāḥ prajāḥ utsīdeyuḥ lokā na kuryāṁ karma aham saṅkarasya kartā syām upahanyām imāḥ prajāḥ utsīdeyuḥ lokā na kuryāṁ karma aham saṅkarasya kartā syām upahanyām imāḥ prajāḥ utsīdeyuḥ lokā na kuryāṁ saṅkarasya kartā syām upahanyām imāḥ prajāḥ. Matajis? Utsīdeyuḥ lokā na kuryāṁ karma aham saṅkarasya kartā syām upahanyām imāḥ prajāḥ utsīdeyuḥ would be put into ruin. All these lokā worlds not kuryāṁ I perform karma prescribed duties chet if aham I saṅkarasya of unwanted population cha and kartā creator syām would be upahanyām would destroy imāḥ all these prajāḥ living entities. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. If I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. Purport. Varṇa-saṅkara is unwanted population which disturbs the peace of the general society. In order to check this social disturbance, there are prescribed rules and regulations by which the population can automatically become peaceful and organized for spiritual progress in life. When Lord Kṛṣṇa descends, naturally he deals with such rules and regulations in order to maintain the prestige and necessity of such important performances. The Lord is the Father of all living entities, and if the living entities are misguided, indirectly the responsibility goes to the Lord. Therefore, whenever there is general disregard of regulative principles, the Lord Himself descends and corrects the society. We should, however, note carefully that although we have to follow in the footsteps of the Lord, we still have to remember that we cannot imitate Him. Following and imitating are not on the same level. We cannot imitate the Lord by lifting Govardhana Hill, as the Lord did in His childhood. It is impossible for any human being. We have to follow His instructions, but we may not imitate Him at any time. The Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam affirms, 10th canto, 33rd chapter, text number 30 and 31. Naitat samatcharej jatu manas apihi anishvaraha vinashyat acharan maudyat yatarudro abdijam visham ishvaranam bacha satyam tattaiva kvachit Tesham yat svavacho yuktam buddhimamstat samacharet. One should simply follow the instructions of the Lord and His empowered servants. Their instructions are all good for us, and any intelligent person will perform them as instructed. However, one should guard against trying to imitate their actions. One should not try to drink the ocean of poison in imitation of Lord Shiva. We should always consider the position of the Ishwaras, or those who can actually control the movements of the sun and moon, as superior. Without such power, one cannot imitate the Ishwaras, who are super powerful. Lord Shiva drank poison to the extent of swallowing an ocean. But if any common man tries to drink even a fragment of such poison, he will be killed. The many pseudo-devotees of Lord Shiva who want to indulge in smoking ganja, marijuana, and similar intoxicating drugs, forgetting that by so imitating the acts of Lord Shiva, they are calling death very near. Similarly, there are some pseudo-devotees of Lord Kṛṣṇa who prefer to imitate the Lord in the Rasa Lila, or dance of love, forgetting their inability to lift Govardhana Hill. It is best, therefore, that one not try to imitate the powerful, but simply follow the instructions. Nor should one try to occupy their posts without qualification. There are so many incarnations of God without the power of the Supreme Godhead. Oma Jnanatimidandasya Jnanandana Salakaya Chakasurunmiritam Yanam Dasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Syām Rupa Kadamahayam Dadati Sabadantikam Vandeyam Sri Guru Sri Yodabhadagamalan Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakandvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastude Datta Ganjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here in this chapter, Krishna is speaking about karma yoga, following prescribed duties according to the scriptures, and also connecting with the Lord. Utsīdeyuḥ ime lokāna kuryāṁ karma chedaham saṅkarasya kartā syām upahanyām imāḥ prajāḥ. So he's saying to Arjuna that he himself is also performing prescribed duties as mentioned in the scriptures. And he's saying, if I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. So in this material world, the rules and regulations are there for the civilized human beings, so that they may be peaceful, so they may be able to engage in spiritual activities and make advancement in spiritual life. They may be able to worship God, the Supreme Lord, Krishna, and in this way advance more and more, and then realize their spiritual nature as spirit souls completely apart from the gross and subtle body, and they may realize the beautiful transcendental form of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. So Krishna, of course, his pastimes are there in Braj. His childhood pastimes, and they're most wonderful and most beautiful. In Braj, Krishna, so he appears just a normal little boy. He's appearing and then he's playing, just like boys or girls, they're playing when they're small. At the same time, he performed the extraordinary activities, which are not possible for normal children, even for normal men to perform. Like so many demons came to trying to kill Krishna, but they're all in turn killed by Krishna. And as explained here by Prabhupada, so Krishna, he was just 7 years old. He lifted a huge hill, more than 20 kilometers long and maybe 6-7 kilometers. The width was there, and very high, much more high than now. And so he easily picked up that hill with the left hand and then put the hill not on the left hand but on the little finger of the left hand, which is impossible for any human being to do. And not only for a little while but for many days, for 7 days he lifted up this hill. So that is only possible for the Supreme Lord. But otherwise he was playing just like a normal child. He was teasing all the children, other children. Of course, when they're younger, he was going to other gopis' houses, and the small children were there, and he was pinching them with his fingers. And then of course if somebody is pinched, then he will cry. And they were crying, and then he was also stealing some butter and so on. Actually, Krishna is reciprocating also with his devotees. Because the gopis actually, the elderly gopis, they wanted that Krishna come to them, to their house. And when they were churning butter, they wanted actually that Krishna should come and take some butter. Of course they were thinking Krishna will come, Krishna should come and he should ask for some butter and we will give him. So Krishna was reciprocating with them. But instead of asking, he was just taking without asking, which is known as stealing. And stealing is not good. But it is appreciated. Krishna stealing is known as makkan chor. Chor means a thief. Makkan is butter. There's also a famous verse in this regard. Braje prasedam navanita choram gopangananam charukula choram anek janmachita papa choram choragraganyam purusham namami. I offer my obeisances to the greatest of thieves. So Krishna is the greatest of everything. He's the most beautiful and he's most knowledgeable, he's most strong, he's the richest person. Everything belongs to Krishna. Most renounced also. And is the biggest thief also. So in the past times, or even for ordinary persons, it is understood actually that, and according to the scripture, stealing is not proper. But when Krishna is doing, actually, it is his pastime and he's a smaller boy at that time, so nobody really says much about it. And if we analyze also that actually Krishna, bhuktarangi tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram, he's saying that bhuktarang, so I'm the only enjoyer, and yagya tapasam. So all the yagyas which are performed and austerities, they should be done as an offering unto me. Sarva loka maheshwaram, I am the Mahaishwar, the greatest controller. And all the world, sarva loka, they belong to me. And suridam sarva bhutanam, I am the friend of all living entities. And those who know this, they will attain peace. Gyata mam shantim richati. So everyone wants peace. So the peace formula is to understand that we are not this body, we are spirit, soul, and Krishna is the Supreme Lord and we are His servants. And so we should chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And then we should serve Krishna in various ways, serving the deities, or cleaning the temple, or do different services according to the instructions of the spiritual master, who is the representative of Krishna, and then we will be peaceful. So Krishna in Braj, so these pastimes are actually most beautiful and most wonderful, most attractive and most amazing. He's a Supreme Lord, but he's performed childhood pastimes which are uncommon. Later on, as he goes to Mathura, and then at the age of 15, 16, then he's performing all the different various activities which are mentioned in scriptures. And then later on he moves to Dwarka also, and he's duly also married there. So he has 16,108 wives. And he's following the rules and regulations of the scriptures. But again, these activities of Krishna so cannot be imitated, and it will be difficult for any normal human being, and we know, even to maintain one wife and keep one wife happy is not so easy. So householders know that. Woman needs this and that, and then emotional needs are there, and so to take care of one wife, if you can do successfully, then you're almost a hero. Or to speak of two wives, sometimes people have two wives, that is a little more difficult. Previously it was allowed, now it is not allowed in India, which is fine because it is difficult to do. But previously, according to Vedic culture, because usually there are more men than women, and there are more women than men, so therefore man may marry more than one wife. So that is according to the scriptures also. And we see that many kings, especially because the king, he has riches, and so he has the ability. Usually the kings, they were very strong. Spiritually speaking also, and materially speaking, they were powerful. So they could maintain many wives. And they were able to satisfy them also, to some extent. Even you must have heard of Ambarish Maharaj in the 9th canto, a great king. Actually, he was the emperor, the king of the kings. And he had actually 20 wives. At the same time, he was doing his duty of an emperor very nicely. Also, it is mentioned in one of the Puranas that he was worshipping the Lord also. It is indicated in Bhagavatam, but no, the details are explained. And so he was worshipping the deities himself also. Sometimes you can see rich people, they have money, they make a temple, and then they engage pujaris to do the seva. And they go to the temple and they do pranam. But you know, they've made a temple, they pay for the expenses, and they do pranam, maybe they offer some flowers, but then the pujari is doing on their behalf. So which is okay, but it is better if the king is directly also doing the seva. So he was doing that also directly, he didn't even want any servant. Nowadays we have pujaris also, and they have a helper to clean the paraphernalia, and they just do the minimum, whatever they can do. But he himself was going early morning to the temple, he was cleaning the temple himself, it was a small temple, and then he was collecting the water from the nearby river, he was collecting the flowers, and the tulsi leaves, and then making the bhoga plate, and then worshipping the Lord and offering bhoga, and then going back to the palace, and then taking care of the duty of the kingdom. And then evening time, of course, then he was spending some time with his wife. But each wife had one palace, so they did not see him so much, because he was busy. But because he was a great devotee, so he could also, to some extent also, satisfy them. So wonderful examples are there. But in regards to Krishna, so Krishna in Dwarka, he had 16,108 wives. And they all had their own palace. And so Krishna, by his power, he expanded himself in 16,108 forms. And in the morning time and evening time and night time, he was in each palace. So that nobody can do. Even some yogis are there, it is mentioned, they may even expand themselves in up to 9 forms. The original form and 8 other forms. But they cannot do so many independent activities. They may do similar activities like the original form. But the Supreme Lord, he was in each palace and he was talking to his 16,108 wives separately, and different conversations are there. So that is not only possible for the Supreme Lord, for Krishna, the original Supreme Lord. Of course, even greater is Krishna in Braj. Because in Braj, so he's performing pastimes which are even more wonderful and amazing. So Krishna is always perfect and complete. But it is also mentioned Krishna in Dwarka is perfect, Krishna in Mathura is more perfect, and Krishna in Braj is most perfect. But here the point is that Krishna, so he was following the rules and regulations when he was in Dwarka. Early morning, so he was getting up in the different palaces and he was taking bath and putting on fresh cloth, because that is required. Prata snan. It is mentioned in scriptures, everyone has to take bath in the morning. So we as devotees, we have been taught this way and we are doing this. But even now, if you go to the big cities in India, many times the people, they will not take bath every day. In the West also. Maybe they take every few days in the bath, in the summer more often, in the winter less. Maybe once a week, that's okay. But that is actually not right. One has to take bath every day. So that is required in the morning. And even if during the day one has to go to the bathroom for evacuation, so then at that point one should take a bath again, according to the scriptures. So the different rules and regulations are there, and Krishna himself, he was following. And then also, as the king was a householder, one has to give charity. Every day he was giving charity to everyone who used to come to the palaces. He was trying to help them. If anyone had any problem, that was previously also the custom. Anyone could go, if he had a problem, he could go to the king and get an interview with the king, and then he was trying to hear what is the problem and trying to solve the problem. So which nowadays is very difficult. And nowadays to see the king, which are not many, is very difficult. Or to see the president or the prime minister of a country is almost impossible, unless you're already known to him. But the common man, he can hardly go. He will have to go to the secretary, and then they will ask, what is your problem? Then he will have to explain, and then his case is considered. But mostly then, even that the Prime Minister will say, okay, you tell this person to take care of that person. But he will hardly be able, because there are so many people also. Like in India, 1 billion people. So and everyone has a problem in life. So if all go to the Prime Minister, then difficult, he doesn't have enough time. But Krishna, he can solve all the problems because he's the Supreme Lord, he's all powerful. And he can reciprocate with anyone. So he was with the 16,108 wives in the morning and in the evening. But during the day he was going to the Sudharma Assembly Hall in Dwarka. And all the 16,108 Krishnas, they became one. And one Krishna was going to the Sudharma Assembly Hall and discussing whatever had to be discussed about Dwarka and the difficulties and demons and the kings which are not, other kings which were not following, and the rules and regulations, who were harassing people, and Krishna was there to chastise them and killing them. And then of course there was the war at Kurukshetra. And so Krishna, so actually by his desire the war happened because there was a need, and he even didn't have to personally take part. He was just becoming the chariot driver of Krishna, which is another amazing thing. Although he's a Supreme Lord and all-powerful, but he's so humble, he becomes the chariot driver of his... Krishna is becoming the chariot driver of Arjuna, his devotee. So and he's helping the Pandavas. So Krishna is most humble also. And usually we know a driver, if you see in India also, so the driver is just a servant. And usually rich people, they will not even drive the car, but they have a driver. Especially in India, but even in the West, very rich people or head of the state, he will not drive, but he has a driver. So, but Krishna himself, the Supreme Lord, is ready to become the driver of his devotee, of his friend Arjuna. So most wonderful Lord. So generally, so Krishna, mostly he is following the rules and regulations, and then this is also explaining why. Because if I would not do that, then actually people would follow that, and they would say, well, Krishna also didn't follow the rules and regulations, why should I follow? So therefore Krishna is following rules and regulations as much as, yes, as required. But still at the same time he does uncommon activities which people, they cannot really do. And so like marrying so many women, that's not possible for an ordinary man. And also an important point, which is also explained in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Varṇa-saṅkara. And Prabhupada is explaining also in this regard, unwanted population. If people are not following the rules and regulations, then there is unwanted population. And then, so that means they are not following rules and regulations, they are not engaged in spiritual activities, and therefore they cannot be peaceful. So that is the result of unwanted population, if the rules and regulations are not followed. Like, one should, men and women, so they should stay together only after getting married. And then even to have children, there's a process also, known as Govardhana Samskar. So one has to be prepared, not by chance one should then, or just for sense gratification that one will enjoy sex life, no. But ultimately the first class grihasta, he will engage in a sex life for procreation in order to have good children who are God conscious. So for that purpose, one is actually choosing a day, and then is a ceremony also many times performed. It may be in a more elaborate way, or it may be done simple, but so then one has to have Krishna in the center. Krishna should be in the center always, even when one is intimately connected with one's wife. So there's a process there. And usually they were taking the blessings of the spiritual master and the parents. So they may be successful. And then, so then the children, so they may be actually God conscious when these activities are performed. These samskars are performed. When the woman then is pregnant, there's a ceremony performed in the 3rd month, known as Varṇa-saṅkara. So that is to have a good child, specifically previously, especially the kings, but usually any person, they wanted to have a boy to continue the family tradition and dynasty. So especially for the kings it was important that a boy should be there, a son should be there, who will be then trained up as the next king. That was the system previously. And they were trained up properly by the king himself and by the ministers, and brahmanas were there to give spiritual knowledge and guidance. And this way they became very qualified. So the samskars are their purificatory rites, so that the particular child will become a good citizen, will become actually a devotee of the Lord, and then he can properly execute his duties according to Varna and ashram, which is required. So that one is then able to engage also nicely, peacefully in spiritual activities. And the 7th month there is another ceremony known as Simanta 9 Samskar. So parting the wife's hair. Of course, usually the wife already, when she's getting married, usually the hair is parted in the middle, and then sindoor is put there, and she will have a bindi. So in the 7th month there is ceremony performed, and the husband has to do according to the instructions of the priest. Some auspicious small ceremonies are there for the well-being of the wife and the child. And then the child is born, and then some ceremonies are there, especially for the brahmanas on the 11th day, the kshatriyas on the 13th day, the Vaishyas on the 15th, and usually those from the Shudra community on the 30th day. There's a ceremony, Namkaran Samskar, or even the 21st day is considered auspicious, because sometimes the wife of the child, the mother of the child, they may not be so healthy, either one or one of them or both, and therefore sometimes it is done a little later on the 21st day, which is considered auspicious. And there again, so then during the ceremony always the spiritual master and the Ishtadev, the worshipable Lord, is respected and the blessings are taken, and then the ceremony is performed. And the end of the ceremony also, the oblations are offered for the benefit of the Lord and His associates, and the spiritual masters and the saintly devotees. And in this way then anyone who is taking part is blessed in this way. So Krishna himself, he was performing these different samskars. So he was duly married to all the 16,108 wives, and yajna was performed always. And then, so he had 10 children from each wife and 1 daughter. And then all the different ceremonies were performed for the children also. So he was performing all these duties just to set the example for the common man. And of course by his power and opulence, then these activities were always nicely performed, and always in the Lord's pastimes there are miracles there. So he himself, so he expanded himself in 16,108 forms. And now, for example, when there's a ceremony performed, and that we know in India, then all the family members are invited. So if a couple is there and they're staying with the father of the boy usually, but then the father's brother who may be living somewhere else is invited, and this uncle, that uncle, they're all invited. And then the family members are invited, so it's a big thing going on. So especially the parents, they have to be invited. So by the Lord's inconceivable Shakti, Lila Shakti, the pastimes potency, even for example the parents, Vasudeva and Devaki, they were having expanded form. So in each palace where Krishna was there with the different queens, Vasudeva and Devaki were there because they were needed to be there. So by the Lord's opulence, so that by the Lord's power, the pastime potency. So that was happening all perfectly and complete. And so therefore, in Dwarka, so Krishna was very much respected. And so therefore the common man so was actually very satisfied with Krishna. And also doing their duties properly according to the scriptures. Because Krishna was following, so they were also following. So in this way he was actually an ideal king. And he was an ideal householder. He was very charitable. And that is the nature. Anyhow, the Supreme Lord is always thinking of the well-being of all his devotees. And and there are two kinds of jivas actually, those who are ever liberated, nitya siddha. They always say Krishna, they always enjoying Krishna's association and reciprocation in the loving exchange, and whatever they need, that is supplied effortlessly. But even those, second category of living entities known as nitya baddha, they are conditioned since time immemorial by the Lord's will. So they have the possibility when they're in this material world to come to the proper understanding and that actually we are the eternal servants of Krishna, and then Krishna himself is coming and giving the instructions as he gave to Arjuna for the benefit of all, so they may understand what is their duty. Or he sends his representative, the spiritual master, who is trying to help the conditioned souls. And then Krishna is there situated in everyone's heart, also guiding the conditioned soul, guiding him what to do and what not to do. And that we can see practically also many times. We know because we have heard and because Krishna, the super soul, is there in the heart. And sometimes we may do something we know we should not eat too much. But then nice Mahaprasad is there and sweets. Of course that is a not very major problem, but still one should be controlled in eating also. But we are already full and we know we should not eat more. But prasad was so nice, let me take one more rasgula. And then one is eating a little bit too much. Or sometimes we get unnecessarily angry and then we realize actually, if we are having some proper intelligence, we realize that is not proper also. Or even then the super soul or Krishna is saying, well, this is not good, what are you doing? Just, relax. And so many times you may understand that actually what we are not doing is not really right. So, because Krishna is there also helping us from within. But because we are not always able to hear, and therefore we make too many mistakes, so then Krishna is sending his representative, the spiritual master, and he will guide us. And he will tell us what to do and what not to do. And then sometimes still we will not know what to do and what not to do, then we can ask. In a conditioned state, we may ask Krishna, but if you are not pure, we will not get the answer, because we cannot see Krishna. We cannot hear what he wants to tell us, but we can go to the spiritual master and we can see him, we can speak to him, and he can tell us what is right and what is wrong when we ask him. So Krishna directly and indirectly is trying to help us so that we are properly engaged in our devotional service, following Varna-ashram also, following the regulative principles, so that we can advance in spiritual life. So Krishna himself is also mentioning that that actually it is very important to follow all the rules and regulations which are given in the scriptures, which the spiritual master is explaining also. Because so many instructions are there in the scriptures, sometimes you may be bewildered in understanding. Now it is mentioned this instruction is there is another instruction which is sometimes seeming to be just the opposite. So now what shall I do? What is proper? So therefore the spiritual master is there and he will help and tell us what to do according to time, place and circumstances. So that is important to follow the instructions. Here one point is given also by Prabhupada in the Purport. There's one is to follow the instruction and one is to imitate. So we should follow the instructions, but we should not imitate the Supreme Lord or the great personalities. We have to guard against this. So that is an important point which Prabhupada is mentioning. So we see the Ishwaras, the great controllers, and we follow their advice, but we cannot imitate their activities. Otherwise there will be difficulty. So the example of Krishna is there. So he's performing his Rasa Leela, he's dancing with so many gopis, or he's married to 16,108 wives. So if we try to do the same thing, well, Krishna married 16,108 wives, so let me do the same thing. But that we cannot do. Not possible. We will not be able to maintain. Impossible. But we should live as householders and perform our duties nicely according to the household ashram. And so the injunctions are there. And we should serve always, take care of the family, but then serve the Lord also, serve the Vaishnavas, and help others also. Sarva bhute hiterataha. As a human being, so it is not only our duty to serve the Lord and take care of ourselves and our family, but we should try to help others also. So Krishna himself was doing. So we should be satisfied as a householder with one house, one wife and some children, and then we should try to be peaceful and then try to help others also. As a brahmachari, one stays in the ashram and one follows the instructions of the spiritual master. But even there, then one should try to not only take care of ourselves as brahmachari, but we should try to distribute knowledge, we should try to distribute books, distribute prasadam, give the holy names to others. That is important. And that we should try to help others. And not imitate the Lord or the powerful representatives of the Lord. The example is also given of Lord Shiva. We cannot imitate him. Or even we should not imitate the spiritual master. But we should follow his instructions. And so if the spiritual master now has some opulence, we should not try to have the same opulence. Or if he has many disciples, so the disciple, when the spiritual master is there, he should not also try to think, I should also become guru now. Let me also have many disciples and then I can live very nicely. No, we should not imitate. We follow the instructions, and but we remain in a humble position. And then we should take guidance always from the spiritual master. And then if one is more advanced, then in purified consciousness, and then one will understand what Guru Gauranga Krishna wants us to do. And then we are safe. But unless and until we are not highly advanced, we have to be always on the guidance of the spiritual master and advanced devotees. So we may be understanding properly what to do and what to do, what not to do, what is important, what is not so important, what is right and what is wrong. So that we have to understand properly. So for that, always we have to be knowledgeable, we have to read the scriptures, and then we should be under proper guidance. And we have to be always very thoughtful while executing devotional service, so that we may be able to advance nicely. And then we have to pray also to the Lord to help us, to guide us. So although we may not be able to properly understand, but if we pray to Krishna, then Krishna will somehow also manage to guide us, even though we may not be qualified to directly hear Krishna what he wants to say, but he will somehow or the other he will let us know what we have to do and what not to do. Sometimes the materialistic person, they will say that the sixth sense is there, or so that so they will understand that somehow the conscious is there, the consciousness or the something inside the voice is there to guide us. So materialistic persons who are not knowledgeable, who are not believing in God, they will not understand that actually the Supreme Lord Himself is there trying to help us. But then you will understand somebody is there to guide me. So even if you cannot so see Krishna or the Super Soul, but if we are thoughtful and if we pray, then we will get the voice also. Then we will understand that Krishna will indicate to us what we should do and what we should not do. And as explained also, the spiritual master is there who is empowered, who is pure, so he will understand clearly what Krishna wants us to do. So the spiritual master is the transparent via media. So he's seeing Krishna, and so he has an exchange with Krishna. So Krishna will tell him. Krishna is in the heart of the pure devotee and is in the heart of the disciple. So the spiritual master will understand what is best for the disciple and he will be able to guide him so that he can make advancement in spiritual life. So Krishna himself, although he is the Supreme Lord and is Jagat Guru, Vande Krishna Jagat Gurum, but he himself, he was taking guidance. He was taking guidance from his parents, just to show that we should respect the parents. And then later on he was taking guidance. He had a spiritual master. Even in Braj, there were two spiritual masters there. So Bhaguri Muni and Sandilya Muni, they were giving guidance to Nanda Baba and of course also to Krishna. Even Garga Muni was giving the name, doing the name giving ceremony. And later on, so in Dwarka also, Uddhav, his good friend, and he was his prime minister of Krishna. And he was very intelligent. So Krishna, he knows everything, but at the same time, just to set the example, he was asking Uddhav many times, so now what shall I do in this situation? He was his advisor, just to teach by example. And even we can see with Mahaprabhu is also the Supreme Lord, but he also accepted guidance from Gangadas Pandit. He was going to school and getting guidance, and he was initiated, and his grandfather was a very learned person, astrologer, and later on he took initiation from Ishvara Puri, although he's the guru of everyone, but just so to set the example. So even one time, one devotee was there, and saw Shivananda Sena, and then so he was explaining to his son that so Ishvara Puri is the spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then his son, he was very intelligent, he was a small boy, 5-6 years old. He was saying, what are you saying? Because he understood that Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord. You're saying the Supreme Lord, he has a guru? How this is possible? He doesn't need a guru. And his father, yes, but so then he was explaining, but just to set the example, he accepted the spiritual master. So just to set the example, the Supreme Lord will follow the rules and regulations, he will take guidance. So although he doesn't need, but he's doing just to set the example, so that the common man will follow also and take guidance from those who are more experienced, more advanced, so that one may be able to advance properly and perfect his life. Hare Krishna. Any question? Okay, everything is very clear. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Hare Krishna. And take some Krishna Prasadam. You can all come here and take some prasad.